Thanks a lot. Yeah, it's working. Yeah, my name is Edial Dekker. Yeah, just like some short note. Your Neighbors was a design studio in Berlin, and we were focused on interactive design, and we've been doing that for 2 years, and yeah, only screen design. So the other thing is hack the overhead, which means hack the government in the Netherlands. And basically it is a platform, and it's a platform where we get together designers, developers, and yeah, like journalists and everyone who's interested into open data, and we try to create apps around open data. So what we do is we get a lot of pizza in, we get a lot of beer in, and we find a really cool space, and we hack for 24 hours to build applications. And it's going to be anything from an iPhone application to a new search, or even to a light that blinks when there are too many files, or it could be anything that's around open data. And it's been very, very successful. And we started it 4 years ago, and we are now closely working together with the Dutch government to make a data catalog. So if you know what it is, it kind of means that we try to make one website where all open data in the Netherlands is accessible. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun, and we learned a lot. There's a blog in front of Gitsy, which is that's our new startup, and I will not really dive deeply into it, but I will kind of like shortly explain what we are doing. So we are trying to create a marketplace, and we want anyone to be able to offer and book tours and activities. So if you have something to offer, like a cooking class or a walking tour, or like a hike tour, you can offer it and other people can book it. And the topic is really interesting for us, and we really had a lot of thoughts about it. And we kind of, in the end, we really felt that all the dots from all the projects that we've been working on kind of fell together in this product. So it's very exciting, and we will launch in 3 weeks with a private beta. So let me know afterwards if you want to see how the product looks like. So I kind of had to redo my slides because of Robin Chase's presentation of Bhaskar yesterday, because she had the exact same slides as I have. So I had to spend all night working on my new slides, but it's not a problem. Yeah, so we're kind of in trouble. That's I think it's a big notion that everyone is kind of feels. I mean, there's a lot of things happening. Yeah, yesterday the Wall Street Journal said that we're in the slowest economic recovery since 1930, which is really, really bad. Yeah, I mean, you heard this phrase a lot, like we will run out of natural resources. And I'm not sure if you're aware of Jeremy Rifkin. He's a very interesting author, and he says we're kind of in a peak globalization, which means, for him, it means that that all the industries that we're dealing with, they all very much focus on profit, and they are they're kind of projected on profit, right? So we're kind of at a point where there's no longer, where not everyone is able to make profit, and things will go really, really bad because we have invested in those things. And yeah, there is like a lot of things happening, right? So there is a lot of like problems, and we really have to think about that. And we've always thought about like bigger issues, and they always had to do with technology from our kind of side. And it's also what Jeff said, like you can think of them as like, like you use technology to solve those things. You can also see technology as kind of a starting point to work on new things and to enable new things. And that's what we're mostly interested in, actually. And yeah, check out Jeremy Rifkin if you have the time, because he has amazing speeches that are all online. And it's very interesting how he talks about these issues. Yeah. So has anyone read this book? Maybe it's from Tom Hodgkinson, and it's a really good book. It launched 2 weeks ago. If you're in London, you should check out the Idler Academy. It's his bookshop, and it's actually a place where people meet and they organize smaller events. For example, how to make a book or how to make cocktails. They do all these sort of things, and it's a very, very good book. And basically what the book tries to help you with is that if you're a dad and you want to be self-sufficient, then there's many ways how you can do that. So you can have bees, for example, you can have eggs, and like Tom tries to explain everything in a really, really nice way. And that's also kind of like how we feel like, right? I mean, we have to change kind of the way we live, because there are so many things happening. And yeah, there's a lot of things happening also in startups and starting companies that are really, really aware of that. So as I said, like we just started up a startup. we have a lot of really, really good advisors. So we are based in Berlin, actually, and there's really good startups there. And everyone like that we talk to kind of feels like that we really, we're really creating something new and we're disrupting a lot of things. And I will go back to this a little bit later, but it's very important that we kind of take responsibility now, right? So it's called Brave Old World. Obviously a funny reference. Let me just get some water. So, there's all sorts of things happening. So I'm not sure if anyone is from London here. There is the School of Life, for example, and basically what it is a school, and what you can learn there is things about life. So, for example, if you want to get a girlfriend, they will tell you how that kind of thing works, or how you can be a better best friend, for example, but also how you can take vacation photos, all these things. And basically what they do is they invite professors, but also like teachers or someone who's really deeply involved in a topic. They just invite them, and they have like 5 times a week they have it, and then people can book things through them. So you can do all sorts of really interesting courses about life. And it's very interesting because they're really trying to rethink the way we are doing things. And it's really, really popular. Like if you want to book a course, you have to be super fast. And they use the internet as a tool for these things, right? So they kind of enable those people to organize, and they just have a space, and that's it. That's all they do. Another thing is how to homestead, and that's a really interesting thing. It's a website, and they try to create like a community around self-proficiency. So they try to like teach you how to how to have chickens and how to create breads and how to, everything that's like self-sufficient. It's really interesting. They have like a bunch of videos, and they also organize events around it. We feel very related to this kind of like grassroots initiatives that have been popping up and that have gotten a lot of traction lately. This is another thing which is a little bit more close to our home in Berlin. So has anyone heard of the Beta House? Some people here know. They became pretty successful, actually, or they became really successful what they're doing. Even the New York Times wrote about them, and they are super interesting. Basically, what they do is they are in a space which is called, Beta House is like a bigger space, and Open Design City is a space within the Beta House. And what they do is they try to create, they have a huge space, and they have a lot of tools there. And as a participant, you can get a membership, which costs around 25 euros, I believe, a month. And then you have access to all those tools that are there. So they have like an amazing set of tools. They have like laser cutting machines that have been self-hacked and like improved with a Blu-ray laser. And they have 3D printers. They have a lot of saws and drill machines, everything. They have everything kind of to build your own stuff. So it's a maker's lab, and they're based in Berlin, and they are really, really successful. And they're trying to, that's really trying to make like a co-working space for makers. And I think that's really interesting. And a lot of things come out of it. So they create lamps, and they create these awesome structures and everything. Very successful. So there's a lot of more things happening, right? If you've seen the other talks around here today, also yesterday with Robin's talk, there are so many of these initiatives where we empower people to do certain things, right? To share resources in a different way. And I think that's a very, very big movement that's happening. And I think we should also really try to support it. This is a small list of startups that do something in that field, but there are many, many more. And of course, a lot of them will fail, but also a lot of them are very, very successful. If you check Airbnb, for example, they're, I'm not sure if they're really profitable, but Etsy, for example, certainly is very profitable. And there are many more that are growing really, really fast. So it seems like a very sustainable business in a lot of ways. eBay, obviously, is very successful too. There's older examples like eBay, and there's also newer ones, maybe like Etsy, that are a little bit more ideological. Sorry. If you talk with people from Etsy, for example, we have Etsy in an advisory board, and we talk with them a lot about bigger issues. And it's really insane how they create a kind of work environment around Etsy too. So if you go to their Brooklyn office in New York, they are with 200 people there, or 220 people, and their whole office is stuffed with things from Etsy. So all the desks, all the things on the wall, all the plants, everything comes from Etsy. And if you talk with anyone who works there, everyone kind of shares an idea about how the world should look like, and like what the new economy should look like. And it's really, really interesting and very, it's a very authentic kind of thing if you go there, and you really believe in them. And yeah, maybe that's a little bit different with older companies like eBay, for example. But there's definitely a lot of passion behind these things. These are also some arguments that Robin also mentioned. Robin from Boscar also mentioned yesterday. So there's a high growth, right, in these startups. There's Airbnb, there's Etsy, and there are many, many more. And they're very, they make money, but they also create a lot of money for those people that organize themselves through that. They're very, very scalable. And I think the most important point is the access capacity. And basically what access capacity means is that there is a lot of stuff happening there, and we are producing a lot of things, and there are a lot of resources that are unused. So we could also call it like an idle capacity, right? So there's a lot of things that are out there, for example, like your drilling machine that you have at home that you only use 2 times a year, or your car that you don't use, that you only use 20 minutes a day or 20 minutes a week. There are so many resources out there that we can actually reuse. And that is a kind of like funny notion, of course, because we are in a world with very, very limited resources. So, it's strange that there are so many resources that are not being used. So this is a quote by Kevin Kelly, and he said, actually, like in this whole new world, access is a lot better than having ownership on certain resources. So why not focus on this thing, right? Why not focusing on access instead of ownership? And that's a very interesting thought. And this is the standard Wikipedia slide that should be in. Capacity utilization. So it's kind of an economic term, and basically it is the fact that we have made a lot of stuff, and we always thought they would have like a certain outcome of things. So if we have like a drilling machine, we want it to drill, like the walls that we have. But also there is a huge value in the things that it does not do at the moment, right? So there's like this could be produced thing. And this could be about like a drilling machine, but it could also be about skills, of course. It could also be about resources. So if you look at the School of Life, for example, I have a friend called Martin Parr, and he's a very famous photographer. And he teaches photography, but he also has some things that he can't really teach about to a lot of people. For example, he's very much into vacation photos. And he's probably pretty good because he's a really good photographer. But he has a lot of thoughts about this. And there's no way he can do something with his things, right? So every 2 months or something, he goes to the School of Life and teaches like a bunch of people how to make vacation photos. It's just one rare example. It's one small example of something like this idle capacity. But there are a lot more things. 2 days ago, I talked with a friend of mine in Berlin, and he said his mom got retired, and she really loved cooking. So she said, I'm going to make cooking classes for 50-year-old or older male Dutch guys. And that's a very interesting demographic, because those people, the 50-year-old males, they never learn to cook. And they're probably all kind of near their retirement, or they want to, they want to have some hobbies. So this cooking course that she did got immense popular. So I was talking with this friend, and he said we had to call mom off because it was just too much for her. The popularity was insane. And I just posted this online, right? And it became insanely popular. There is all these kind of resources that are just out there, waiting to be, utilized, or being turned into something more tangible. And I think that's a very interesting notion. It has always been like that, of course, too. The fact is that we have less resources than ever before, and the fact is that there are new ways how we can use technology for this to actually utilize them. So it's also we have to be honest in this too. There's a huge economic value in this, right? It's not just good for the startups that are around, but it's a lot better, I hope, for people that actually organize things, or that actually, offer their car, that they can actually make a buck. And there's a whole new kind of economy, of the grassroots economy, where peer-to-peer networks are appearing, which create a lot of economic value. This was yesterday, right, at Robin Chase, her talk. So this is always like, so at the moment we are raising money for our startup and it's going really well. And when you start to work on your pitch deck, you always have to have, you have to have some slides, and you always kind of like know from your friends what kind of questions will be asked, right? And that's, this is like a really big question always. So how big is your market, right? And it's always like a question we always like kind of like didn't want to really answer, because it's a weird question. You can't say like it's 1% of China that we're after or something. That doesn't make any sense. And you also want to have a good answer. So we're forced to really think about this, right? Like, how big is our market for Gitsy or any other startup, right? I mean, how can you think of this? So then we came to Etsy and we're like, hey guys, we have this question and I can't really know. We don't really have an answer for it because we just don't know how big our market is. And then Etsy said like, when we started 6 years ago, there was no handcraft online market, right? So it was like a non-existent market. And that's a funny thing, right? There was a lot of idle capacity for people actually making things, and it became kind of hip to go knitting, guerrilla knitting and all these things. But there was no market for it, and there was definitely no money in it. And that's really interesting how Etsy kind of did that, right? They did not just like create something. They didn't find like a solution for a problem that was there, but they like totally reinvented like a new market of people making handcrafted things. Do you all know what Etsy does actually? So Etsy is a marketplace where you can, so if you create something, it could be like a knitting thing, but it could also be like a ring, for example, that you make for someone, or like a flag or a map or a banner. It could be anything really. And this was, I think it was the 4th of July thing because of the American flags and stuff. Normally it's not so nationalistic. But basically you create something and then you offer it on Etsy. And this became a huge website. They have 250 people now employed. They had more than 260 million revenue through their sellers, and they get a small percentage of this, but they are very, very profitable. And basically it's really funny, right? Because they just created this whole market that was not there. And that's, I think, a very interesting thing. And Etsy really transformed itself from being like a platform where knitters come together or social network to something really sustainable where actually people make their living out of. And it totally got rid of like the whole boring, like old like people knitting thing. It became a really, really sexy platform and a huge community behind it, right? So they organize events for themselves, but they also organize so many events like on the fly, where they share resources, where they share knowledge of how you do things, how you create value, how do you do photos, how do you do your SEO, all those kind of sort of things. It really became a very big community. So this is obviously a big thing. Social objects. So it was very, it was like it was a term by Yuri Engstrom, and he did Jaiku, and now he's working on Ditto. And very, very smart guy, obviously. But he had this concept of a social object, right? So what happens when you put something that's offline or that's not connected to the internet? Like, how does that look like? And how can you create or facilitate conversations with this? And he called this a social object. So yesterday night I was redoing my slides and I had a lot of tabs open. So I just went to all those tabs and kind of like saw where the like how those social objects look like. It could be, for example, it could be anything from, a travel. You go somewhere and you use TripIt, for example, and you know where you are, and you create social objects around that. But it could also be that you hand knitted something, you put it online, or it could be an activity that you post, for example. It could be anything. And I find all these things in 10 minutes, right? So vote, invite, post, blah, blah, blah. There's so many things around us now which create a social object, which makes it it gives it a lot of value. This is Soundcloud. I'm not sure if you know it. It's kind of like a Flickr for sound. So what they try to do, they're Berlin-based, really good friend, and they, you can upload soundtracks and people can comment on it. And they created like a platform for sound, which is really, really interesting. And people leave comments and stuff. I have to hurry up. So I'm just wrapping it up. So just like some tips that we heard here and there, I think it's really up to us, by the way, to create platforms and to empower people to make use of their idle capacities that they have. This is a quote by Rob Kalin, who's the CEO of Etsy. He said, make your product as human as possible, right? Like use real names, that's the only way we can do it. Make it authentic as possible and create real human value kind of thing. Kevin Kelly said, it starts with chips and ends with trust. Makes a lot of sense, also what Jeff talked about, right? It's, you start with the technology, but there's a lot more to it, and we have to be able to create these trusted networks, enable it to work. Alex and Eric from Soundcloud, they had a quote which said, like, unmute the web. Obviously, they're a sound platform, so that makes sense. But also, like, it gives another notion of actually, like, helping people to promote, helping all those musicians to promote themselves. So they really try to create, like, a really huge set of tools of analytics, but also sharing of all these social objects that help their musicians that are on the platform. They're using the platform to promote themselves. I think it's a very big thing. Then, I think this is kind of where it all comes down to. I think this is like, a very big thing that we try to work with. Like, we don't try to solve problems, but we really pursue opportunities out there. I think that's a way more interesting look to start building this whole new economy. So we're entering beta in 3 weeks. Drop me a line and we'll give you access. And this is my name. And this was my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edial.